Hi there. Thanks for joining us again on Space Nuts, where we talk astronomy and space science. My name is Andrew Dunkley, your host. It's always good to have your company. Thanks for joining us. Coming up today, we are going to talk about Fred's trip to the US, where he saw eclipses, he saw rocket launches, he saw dogs and cats living together. There were all sorts of things happening. And we will be revisiting that little tour because some pretty exciting things happened. And this wasn't exciting. This was probably a bit harrowing. Space junk hitting a house in Florida. That doesn't happen often. And probably one of the biggest stories in recent weeks or months, the most massive stellar black hole yet found in our galaxy. We'll be talking about that. And on our upcoming, well, that's it. We've got it. I keep forgetting we've split the show in two. So I'll tell you about the Q&A episode later. But those things coming up on this episode of Space Nuts.
15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 10, 9. Ignition sequence start.
Space Nuts.
5, 4, 3, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Space Nuts.
Astronauts report it feels good.
And here he is, fully jet-lagged and ready to go, Professor Fred Watson, astronomer at large. Hello, Fred.
Who are you again? I seem to remember. Yeah, that's right.
And the other thing, I didn't realise overnight television was so horrible. That's the other thing that jet lag teaches us.
That's it. Yeah, no, I haven't gone there. It's not been too bad actually. It's coming this way. I think is a little bit better than going the other way.
Definitely.
We lost Friday the 12th of April. That disappeared over the date line. We didn't see any of that, which was all right.
It's just a weird thing, isn't it, though?
Yeah,
you take off on a Friday and you get home on a Sunday and you go, hang on, what happened there?
Yeah.
It's such a strange thing. But going the other way, you sometimes continue to live the same day for like 36 or 40 hours.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It's truly bizarre. But that's, one of the first world problems we deal with.
Indeed it is. But yes, thank you. We're fine. Really, still, in a way, still processing this marvelous journey that we've had over in North America. So we started off in Vancouver, in Canada. I have never visited Canada before, and I knew I'd be impressed, and I was.
It is a lovely place.
Yeah, especially British Columbia, where we were. Took in the snow up there as well, all sorts of things. We went up by train to Whitehorse, which is subarctic. It's in Yukon. One of the highlights of that train trip was a lovely couple of who turned out to be from the Central Coast in Australia, who came up and said, "Are you Fred Watson?" We're Space Nuts fans, so shout out to them. Hello. Yeah, and the great thing about Whitehorse, of course, is that, as I said, it's subarctic. And so they do get the aurora there. They get the northern lights. And we did spend 3 nights aurora hunting. We were quasi-successful. We saw the northern lights on, some of us saw them on all 3 nights. But they weren't spectacular displays. There were green streaks in the sky. What pleased me was that I now know how to use my iPhone to take photographs of the aurora. So when we go up to Lapland next year, I shall be armed with the iPhone and something to stand it on so we get dramatic images, hopefully to bring back to Space Nuts.
Rusty from Donnybrook taught me how to do it. So this is on an iPhone. So I don't know if you can see that, but you press that little up arrow.
Yeah, you do.
And and then there's a little moon icon there.
That's right.
And that gives you the capacity to, increase the exposure time and things like that. Yeah. He sent a photo of the sky from Western Australia and the stars the other day. Brilliant photo. Amazing.
Yep.
All with an iPhone.
All with an iPhone. I know, it's extraordinary. So that was great. We actually caught up with the Whitehorse Astronomical Society as well, which has 22 members, but they've got a lovely observatory out there in the bush. We spent a night sky watching there, waiting for an aurora, which turned up actually just after we left, but some of our group saw it, so that was great. From there, it was down through the ice to Jasper and Lake Louise, places which are extraordinary in terms of...
Was it still frozen when you saw it, Lake
Yep,
Louise?
yep. Lake Louise was frozen solid, yeah. It was.
Were people being buffheads and walking out on top of it?
Oh, yeah, all over the place. They were building...
No, I wouldn't do it.
They were building snow persons on it. We had a sleigh ride actually, which did go over the ice just to turn around at the end of the lake and come back.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, there was confidence in the thickness of the ice there. We knew from Whitehorse what the thickness of ice was because you could see it in the river. It was the best part of 2 feet or something like that, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, that sounds. Look, having done a similar trip to you only last year, I can. You brought back a lot of memories for me of Canada. It's just the most beautiful place, and as is the northern part of the United States, similar countryside, and just a glorious part of the world. I loved Vancouver. I love Seattle for that matter. They're both in the same vicinity. In fact, I did the shortest international flight I've ever done from Seattle to Vancouver, which was 23 minutes.
Not very
long. No, we spent more time on the tarmac waiting than we did in the air. But yeah, glorious part of the world, and very lucky to live there, except I could not stand your cold. It just does not get that cold here, and I don't want it ever to get as cold as that in my part of the world. No way. But you did go over there for one specific reason, Fred.
The eclipse, that's right. So we took a flight down after we left Lake Louise, we took a flight down from Calgary to Houston. And the first thing that I got was email from the Anglo-Australian telescope, which was more or less, Houston, we have a problem. Which they did with the mirror elevator at the telescope, which was rapidly fixed, I have to say. But it was very odd that as soon as I arrived in Houston, I got this email. Paraphrased it as Houston, we have a problem. Of course, the space center there, mission control. We took in all that. We took in the Houston Museum of Natural Sciences, which is an extraordinarily good museum. Then took in sort of via San Antonio up to Dallas. And Fort Worth, and it was from there that we made our eclipse expedition. We saw the eclipse at a place called Bristol, which is the name of a big town in the United Kingdom, but it's also the name of a little village not very far from Dallas, probably an hour or so from Dallas. And there's a winery there, and that's where we had our eclipse location. We were one of about 100, there were 100 people there, or so we were quite a large group among that. And our group had a wonderful morning waiting for the sky to clear because it was cloudy. We could get glimpses of the sun. We could see after 12:22, which was the time of first contact, we could see the moon's disk starting to slip across the disk of the sun. Totality was at 1:40 Texas time. And at about 1:39, the sky cleared completely. The whole sky just cleared. It was astonishing. And so we're in this completely blue sky for the total eclipse, of which we had 4 minutes, 23 seconds. It was a long eclipse. Very dramatic, lovely views of the corona. I didn't bother trying to take photographs because I know I'm rubbish at it. But I had binoculars, got some great views of the corona, some very prominences, as they're called, these pink blobs that are clouds of glowing hydrogen being pushed off the surface of the sun into its inner atmosphere, the chromosphere. All that was really dramatic. We saw Bailey's beads, those little gaps where you're seeing the sun itself through valleys on the moon's surface. We saw the diamond ring effect, which is just a big version of that. And then the eclipse was over and everybody cheered and we were very happy. And all of those people who weren't about to talk on TV like I was had lots of glasses of wine at night. I didn't touch any till the evening because I knew
it's funny you should mention that because I was on air on the radio at the time and I glanced up at one of the TV news services and there was Fred Watson. I thought,
oh seriously?
Yeah. I was on air when it
go.
happened. So, I saw you talking on Sky News here.
No, that's been a serendipity, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was another couple at the winery who were Space Nuts fans as well. I didn't get to talk to them, but Marnie did. They
Marvellous.
Very well aware of Space Nuts.
I was certainly jealous because I would have loved to have been there, but if I'm patient enough, I won't have to go anywhere because in 2028, we get our own right here in Dubbo. Total eclipse of the sun at 1:52 p.m., I think it is. And it'll be, it'll be, about that. But it'll be 3 minutes and 52 seconds of totality.
In Dubbo, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, after you've seen it in Dubbo, that the moon shadow will be right overhead here where I'm sitting now in Northern
Yes, it
Sydney.
will, because it's going to come across from the northwest of the state over central New South Wales, and it's going to totally black out Sydney like it did in Melbourne in 1970, whatever it was.
So you were 73, was it?
Yeah. I was quite young, and they wouldn't let me go outside. I so wanted to see it, but yes, not advisable without protection. And these days, of course, you can buy sunscreen and rub it in your eyes, and that solves the problem. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No. That's, I think that could be misinformation there, Andrew.
Yes, could be. Yes. Just ignore that. No, don't put sunscreen in your eyes. But yes, you wear proper glasses and filters and all that sort of stuff. And can't wait. 2028. That should be very exciting. But great trip by the sound of it, Fred.
Yeah, Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your rating?
Oh, about 12. We wrapped up with a flight down to Orlando from Dallas Fort Worth, where we took a trip to the spaceport to Cape Canaveral, and our hotel was such that we had a view of the whole of the launch area. And in fact, it was one of those things where you're racing against the clock because the Dallas Fort Worth Orlando flight was delayed significantly, and we knew there was a launch coming up around midnight. Okay. And we had a coach transfer from the airport, so we got in 9:30 or something like that. Hurled ourselves into this coach to get to the hotel, and made it just in time, except that they delayed the launch. And so it was originally 12, but eventually it was a SpaceX Falcon 9. Its registration in terms of the Starlink satellites, which it was launching, was 648. And so we saw it very, very clearly from our hotel, which had a viewing platform, especially for watching space launches. They're all set up there. Yeah, so I got the binoculars out again. I didn't try and photograph it, but very spectacular, marvelous thing to happen. Some of our number actually followed it right through to when the first stage was released. The second stage went on its way. First stage turns around to come back down. By the time we'd finished watching, it was already sitting on a barge in the Atlantic Ocean. This must not go beyond these four walls, Andrew. But I had the binoculars on, and there was cloud there. So the rocket exhaust, or basically the firing exhaust of the Falcon 9, disappeared into the clouds. And then it reappeared, and I thought, that's fantastic. I'll watch for the second stage, parting of the two components. Watched and thought, it's funny, it's not really moving. There's two bright stars on either side of that rocket launch. Then the penny dropped. I was looking at the star Antares in Scorpius, the Scorpion, which looked exactly like the exhaust of this Falcon 9. So I sort of put the binoculars quietly away and said, yes, that was fantastic, wasn't it?
You're no rocket scientist, Fred, that's for sure.
It's actually the second time that's happened, because I remember once decades ago it was in Gannadar, which is in northwestern New South Wales.
Right. Yes, just up the road from us.
Not very far from you. And I was waiting to meet somebody off a coach during the night. And basically was standing outside the bus station at night, and this flaming red object passed overhead. And there was a coach driver standing next to me. And I said, look at that. I said, that looks to me like a re-entering bit of space junk, because you can see that it's fiery, it's red, it's coming in at quite a high speed. I reckon that's what it is. And he said to me, actually, no, it's not. He said, it's a garbage bag with a firelighter tied underneath it. And some kid's been launching these things. And the police are trying to find out who he is before he sets the whole town on fire. So I told him what I do for a living, and he almost wet himself. He was so amused by the fact that
that's brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah, love it. Of course, Gannadar, home to the 150th time, 150 degree time meridian. Is that it?
Yes, I think it's 150. I think that's right.
Yes, I thought it was the 150 degree mark. Yeah, yep. Very good. All right. Now, do you want to talk about the space junk now, or do you want to leave it till the next?
No, let's just mention it because it's
okay.
It's, as you said, it's in the same neck of the woods. This is a story about a gentleman in actually it's one of the seaside cities in Florida, Naples, and he basically had something come through his roof. Which didn't cheer him up much. But when he looked at it, this gentleman is very astute about space technology. He reckoned it was part of a pallet, basically a support pallet, used to mount batteries, which are being basically re-entered to burn up in the atmosphere. And it was a piece of metal round about 4 inches, 10 centimetres by 1.5 inches, or 4 centimetres, weighing a bit more than half a kilogram, 1.6 pounds. And sure enough, that was what's gone through his roof. It's been analysed. It was well burnt up, actually. You can find this story, by the way, on space.com. Very nicely covered there with some pictures of before and after for one of these stanchions.
Oh, look at that.
Found. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that came off the International Space Station.
Yes, it basically was something that was being thrown away from the International Space Station. It was junk, junk that was being allowed to burn up in the atmosphere. And normally that sort of thing burns up completely, but sometimes it doesn't. And in fact, I think the space agency itself, NASA, have launched a bit of an inquiry to find out why that did not burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a strange one. Gosh, it's a good thing it didn't hit a person. That would have made a mess.
That's right, yeah. So far, nothing's...
The odds are remote, but it's not impossible. But, space junk landing. Yeah, Naples, Florida, rang a bell. I think they play a PGA Tour golf event in Naples, Florida every year. Yeah.
There you go. And talking about the ISS has just reminded me of one of the real highlights of the trip. You know, I've talked about the spectacular ones, but the Kennedy Space Flight Center, where we went the day after we'd seen the Falcon 9 launch, utterly mind-blowing. It absolutely took my breath away. All my favourite bits of space hardware there. Yeah. I've got so many photographs now of me standing in front of the Gemini Titan combination, which I watched
at the rocket park.
Yeah, that's right, the rocket park. Yeah. Thrillingly, I was thrilled by all that while I was a university student in the 1960s, and it just brought it all back. It was fantastic. But the thing that surprised me most, Andrew, you'll know that the Space Shuttle Atlantis is there at Kennedy Space Flight Center. In the same enclosure is a life-size replica of the Hubble Space Telescope. And for some reason, yes, I know it's a 2.4-meter telescope, but I just hadn't expected it to be so big.
Oh, wow.
Huge. It is huge. And yes, it's a big telescope. You know, you've got the tube, which in all the photographs we see of it deployed in space, it looks relatively small, but that thing's 10 feet in diameter, effectively. It's nearly 3 meters or thereabouts. And the instrumentation package at the back is much bigger. So it is a very, very large piece of kit. And yes, it kind of really enhanced my appreciation for the fact that it was taken into orbit by a space shuttle in its cargo bay, and just what I think it's the biggest thing that they ever put in the cargo bay, I think, with about an inch to spare on either side of it. So, yeah, really remarkable. That was one of those epiphany moments that I didn't really expect. I would have thought, I knew that the Hubble Space Telescope was big, I didn't realise just how big it is. And of course, the James Webb Telescope is even bigger, much, much bigger, with a 6.5 metre diameter mirror. Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. I'm sorry, Andrew. I've really...
No, that's okay. No, it's we can live through your travels and enjoy them almost as much. But I must say, the Kennedy Space Centre, mind-blowing. Yeah, just...
Can I add one more footnote to it?
Yeah, go for it.
It was even more special for us because we had a guide. We had a friend of a friend, Kerry Doherty, in Adelaide, used to work at the Powerhouse Museum. She was the Powerhouse Museum space specialist, very well known in the Australian space world. She has a friend called Tim Gagnon, and she basically got her friend Tim, who works in the Kennedy Space Centre, to give us a personalised tour. Now, Tim is a very special individual because he is a space artist, and he has designed 19 of the mission patches that have flown with astronauts, mostly on the space shuttle, but others as well. So his artwork has been in space, and he works with astronauts to say, what do you want on this artwork? Yeah. Extraordinary man. And we've got to get him on Space Nuts, Andrew.
Oh, please. Maybe he could design us a mission patch for Space Nuts.
Hey, now you're talking.
Wouldn't that be cool? Well, I think the logo might... Yeah,
got one.
That's my brother's design. I like that. I love those two little characters. I think it's terrific.
But getting Tim on the job would be remarkable. Can I? I know many of our listeners can't see this, but I'm going to show you something anyway.
Well, you can see it on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe below. I've got it in there. I got it in there.
When he said goodbye to us, Tim knew that I was a mad keen fan of the Gemini missions, which preceded the Apollo missions. They were two-person spacecraft, and there were 12 missions, all of which were about learning how to dock and rendezvous and things like that. So Tim knew I was keen on it, and actually the day after we saw him, he came specially to our hotel to give me this.
Yep,
which is
look at that
kind of giant mission patch for Gemini 2. That's right, but all the other ones around the edge, going the wrong way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 flew together. And 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12's that one there. So that's a giant-sized mission patch, which is going to be in a frame and on my wall here in the office before too long. But wasn't that great? What a gracious and talented and knowledgeable man. It was a delight to be with him. So heads up to you, Tim. Thank you very much for that.
Incredible. All right. We'll leave it there, but you're listening to Space Nuts with Andrew Dunkley and Professor Fred Watson. Let's take a short break from the show to tell you about our sponsor, NordVPN, and we really do appreciate them being with us for so very long and supporting Space Nuts. I do believe in virtual private networks for your personal security or even your business level security, and there is no better than NordVPN. I've been using Nord for couple of years now, and I cannot complain. They've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Well, that's well past, and I've never even thought about saying, here, have your product back. It's just too good. As you know, I particularly love their password protection software. It's just a great way to collate all your usernames and passwords and URLs in one easy package, and then you never have to think about it again. All you have to remember is your master password, and it'll do the rest. It just depends how elaborate you want to get with it. I keep it pretty simple, so if I need to look up a password because I can't remember it, I just go into that piece of software and look it up. But you can go the whole hog and it will log in for you. It's brilliant stuff. Now, if you want to go to the special URL and check out NordVPN as a Space Nuts listener, as always, a special deal for you. And it's nordvpn.com/spacenuts, nordvpn.com/spacenuts. And then you just click on Get the Deal, and you can see all the packages and products that are available to you. Now, as I've said many times, the longer you go with them, the cheaper it gets on a month-by-month basis, and the more products you get with the bigger packages that you choose. But it's totally up to you. If you only need high-speed VPN, get their basic service. If you need to protect yourself against malware and the tracking you want to protect yourself against trackers and get the ad blocker, go with their standard setup. But if you want that cross-platform password manager and the data breach scanner and a terabyte of cloud storage, then buy their complete package. I have that and I swear by it. Truly, it is brilliant. And you won't be disappointed. A 30-day money-back guarantee is as good as it gets. And there is so much that you will gain out of this. Now, you don't have to use everything. I don't particularly use everything, but once in a while I'll do a dark web scan just to make sure nobody's trying to steal my information, because that's where it gets sold. And it's so handy because occasionally my name pops up and I go, damn, how'd they do that? But, you can protect yourself against it. It's nordvpn.com/spacenuts. nordvpn.com/spacenuts. Click on Get the Deal. Have a look around and just see what works for you and sign up. You've got that 30-day money-back guarantee, and that should give you peace of mind. But what will give you a better peace of mind is having a product that just puts that brick wall between you and those people who are, trying to get hold of your information for whatever reason, to hack your bank accounts, to sell it on the dark web, to just benefit them at your expense. And that's what it comes down to. So don't let the naughty people get hold of your information. Sign up for NordVPN today. That's nordvpn.com/spacenuts. Now, back to the show.
0G, and I feel fine.
Space Nuts.
Now, Fred, to something extraordinary. We probably get more questions about black holes than anything else, and they are in the news all the time. And a new piece of information that's now been brought forward, and I've heard this on the news in the last day or so, and this is basically the most massive stellar black hole yet found in our galaxy. Would that be the right way of describing it?
Perfect. That's exactly what it is. That's right, and it's great because, it's got strong connections with Australia, not direct connections, but they are there. The original discovery was made using the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft, and I'll explain how that happened in a minute. Gaia is an astrometry spacecraft measuring the positions of stars very accurately, but the follow-up work was done with the VLT, the Very Large Telescope of the European Southern Observatory down in northern Chile at Cerro Paranal. The telescope that, in fact, it's 4 telescopes, but they can be used in combination or singly, 8.2-meter mirrors each one. Those telescopes are accessible by Australian astronomers because of the strategic partnership that we have with the European Southern Observatory. So it's a good news story, not just from the science point of view, but from the fact that we can brag about, what is effectively Australia's national optical observatory, not on Australian soil, but down there in Chile, because we have this partnership. So it's a good news story. So what's the story? What's the story, Fred? I hear you say.
It's a big hole in the sky. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, that's right. So what happened was scientists who were working with the Gaia mission. So this is, as I said, it's an astrometry mission. It measures the positions of stars in the sky very, very accurately. Working, these astronomers are from institutions in Europe, notably l'Observatoire de Paris, Paris Observatory, very nice building as well as a nice institution. They noticed that one particular star had a wobble to it that was, detected by the Gaia spacecraft. So this thing's measuring star position very accurately. If you do that over time, you can tell if a star is moving or wobbling or doing something funny like that. And they analyzed the wobble spectroscopically using the Very Large Telescope, and realized that what was happening to this star is that it was in orbit around something else that was invisible. And their calculations showed that this object had a mass of 33 times the mass of our sun, which makes it the only candidate that it could be is a black hole, but it also makes it a record breaker. because the next most massive stellar mass black hole in our neighbourhood, I put Geordie in here so he wouldn't do that, is...
All quiet in the studio audience, please.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
It's all happening.
Yeah, it's all happening. So the next most massive known is 21 solar masses. That's Cygnus X1. It's a very famous, one of the first black holes ever discovered. This one is 1.5 times the mass of that, 33 solar masses, quite exceptional. There are more massive black holes in other galaxies, but this is significant because it's in our own galaxy. It's only 2,000 light years away. And it's challenged our understanding of black holes, because remember, we're talking now about stellar mass black holes. That means black holes with a mass of about one star, so 33 in this case, which are ones that have been formed when a star gets to the end of its life and collapses. So they're not the supermassive black holes that we think about in the centers of galaxies. They are probably formed by black holes accreting together, building up a very, very solid array of a very solid mass of black holes, sometimes billions of times the mass of the sun. But in the stellar mass region, this is a record holder within our galaxy. And as I said, it's challenging astronomers' understanding of how something this massive could form, because typically they're 10 solar masses, something like that.
Yeah.
How could you get something as massive as this? And a clue comes from the companion star, which may well have been formed at the same time as the progenitor star of the black hole, the thing that was the star before it exploded and created the black hole, because it's highly metal poor. And as you know, everything except hydrogen and helium to an astronomer is a metal. And this star is very metal poor. It means it's mostly hydrogen and helium with not much else. And that makes it a bit different from your normal star. Most stars have got quite significant amounts of other elements in them, like sodium and carbon and oxygen and iron and all of those things. Whereas these metal poor ones have only very small amounts of that. And so maybe it is something to do with the fact that the companion star and almost certainly the progenitor star of the black hole were metal poor. That might be a clue to why we have this not supermassive black hole, but very massive stellar mass black hole in our own galaxy.
Yeah. The other theory I have is it's actually 33 1/3 times the mass of the sun, and it's not a black hole, it's just a vinyl LP.
Now you're talking. Now, I hadn't made that connection, Andrew, and I have to say it is a fairly tenuous connection. The one link that I think gives it some credibility, the one thing that gives it some credibility is that vinyl LPs are black.
Yes, so that's right. That's the only connection I was making, really. And kind of the same shape without the hole. Oh, no, they've got the hole in the middle. Yeah, that's...
They've got a hole in the middle. I suppose you could equate the edge of the vinyl to the event horizon of a black hole. That might be,
It's just a thought. But yeah, quite an incredible discovery. Makes you wonder what, if there's anything potentially bigger out there in the stellar mass black hole arena.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why we haven't known about this before, because it is close, much closer than Cygnus X1. It's because it's quiescent. It's not gobbling anything up, because that's what normally gives them away. If you've got the accretion disk, which is swirling around the black hole, you're going to get radiation from it, and that's what we normally discover. But not in this case. It's the wobble of the star.
It's like finding a volcano that's been there for billions of years, and you only just notice.
Yes, that rings a bell too.
Indeed. All right, Fred, we are done, but a reminder to everybody, if you're particularly watching us on YouTube, to subscribe, which you can do that down there, one of those finger points to the subscribe button, so please do that. Don't forget to visit our website and have a bit of a peruse. I love using all these weird words. And don't forget our social media platforms as well, as Space Nuts official Facebook page, and of course the Space Nuts podcast group, which is getting more and more active and more people. I think more people are on that Facebook page than actually ever listen to us. But it's a great fun page where you can all talk to each other and swap photos and yarns, and it's a good time place. Fred, we are done for another day. Thank you so much. Good to have you back in person. We've kind of been in pre-record mode for the last month or so, but we're back, and things will be normal for probably a week or two.
Yes, that's right.
Before someone else goes overseas. I wonder who that'll be.
Who knows?
Yes. All right. Thanks, Fred. See you soon.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Andrew.
Fred Watson, astronomer at large, part of the team here at Space Nuts. Good to have Hugh back as well, although he's forgotten how to do everything. And from me, Andrew Dunkley, thanks for your company. Catch you on the next episode, a Q&A episode of Space Nuts soon. Bye-bye.
Space Nuts. You've been listening to the Space Nuts podcast.
Mission complete, Houston.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.